Practice Director at For Communications.
And I'm Craig De Silva. I oversee the PR and comms at INFINITI, Middle East. With the Q50 campaign at the Dubai Mall, the idea was that we were launching one of our best-selling models, our mid-size executive sedan, in a very, very competitive market. So the idea was, and again, the main changes in the model were obviously minor design changes, but this new engine and powertrain, which is 400 horsepower and 300 horsepower. And the brief to the agency was, how do we bring that to life in a unique and interesting way? And
the challenge for us really was to work together with two other agencies to bring this idea to life, as Craig mentioned, in a really challenging marketplace. So what we did was really think of, what would speak to our consumer, our end consumer. Extensive market research and audience research was undertaken, and we understood that a simple campaign wouldn't really cut it. So what we decided to do was to measure for the first time the emotional response of a car. So what we did was we partnered with Emotive Lab, and through a series of test drives, we measured through wearable technology the emotional response that people had driving the car versus driving a simulator. And in the end, we were actually able to show in real data terms the response, so everything from excitement to engagement, etc. So in the next stage of the campaign, we took this data and this analysis, and we actually developed a soundtrack with a DJ in Germany. He mixed up all the different sounds that came out of the data and created this amazing soundtrack that was basically a soundtrack to the campaign. And in the last stage, we launched this incredible showcase and the soundtrack at a stand at Dubai Fountains in Dubai, watched by more than 50,000 people on the day, give or take, regional media and influencers, with a stunning projection of Infinity on the water, with the soundtrack becoming the background to the Dubai Fountains.
Obviously, from a brand perspective, brand awareness is something that we always try and drive across the board, independent of what product it stands for. It's about Infiniti's brand positioning, which is Empower the Drive, and how we bring that to life by really doing things differently. Obviously, from a more business bottom line perspective, it's to drive sales. We are in the business of selling cars, and this is our main goal. But obviously, we don't want to shove the Infiniti brand down people's throats. We want them to naturally gravitate towards it. And this is why we came up with an idea like the Q50, where we really take something that's not tangible, which is the performance of a car, and then bring it into something that you can visually relate to, that you can hear, that you can feel from an emotional perspective. So I mean, for us, these were the key objectives.
And from an agency point of view, for us, it was really key to really make it an integrated campaign, because what we find is integration can be a bit of a buzzword in the industry. So, and often we're asked to PR something that creative came up with, etc. So this was really an integrated approach from day one. So with the client and with the other agencies, working together from the concept to strategy to execution, and kind of having that approach across platforms, and really,
bringing it together.
Doing it as one.
The campaign success was measured with multiple verticals. Share of voice for us is really important from a comm standpoint as well as from a social media standpoint. We were the #1 most talked about brand in the premium segment for the entire month of November and December for the campaign period. Bottom line sales is obviously very, very crucial. And I can't remember the percentage off the top of my head, but we definitely increased our sales for the Q50 sedan. And then obviously awareness and leads. So the increase in traffic into our dealer showrooms and partners around the region, the number of leads generated from this activity. And really it's that knock-on effect. I mean, you do this fantastic execution on ground, and then you see the tangible results knock on. And again, the event took place in November, December, I can't remember, end November, and we were seeing people come into our showrooms and ask about, well, kind of synergize with what we did at the fountains all the way into February of the following year, which is fantastic. I mean, that kind of recall is amazing. So we had teams on ground, obviously, capturing leads, data entry points. We had nodes everywhere in and around the fountain areas. So we were able to basically track when those people either engaged with it online, with all of the content that we put online as a result of that, and so to when they entered the showrooms. So it's that back-end I guess, technical ability where you can track and measure it, that then directly coincides with what you've done on ground from a campaign perspective.
Definitely an incredibly challenging market. Automotive sales were down since 2016, and 2017 wasn't much easier, so we were operating against a pretty challenging backdrop. Increased media spend from our competitors, so whilst INFINITI had no increase whatsoever, so actually earned media really took prevalence in this campaign. And then really about doing something that was first and different. As the brand, INFINITI is a challenger brand, and the challenge to us as an agency was to come up with something that had never been done before in the Middle East, or actually let alone globally. So that's exactly what we set out to do, and that's what we achieved. I mean, first and foremost, we had to understand who our customer was. Having worked with INFINITI for a number of years, we obviously have a good understanding, but this was very segment-specific, very audience-specific campaign. So we did a lot of research into, who our customer is, what their interests are, really going beyond the standard market research and really trying to understand what drives them, what interests them, and what are their interests outside work, their family, etc., and really being able to relate to them in a way that made sense to them. The other thing was, of course, then market research and understanding how our campaign had to kind of sit in that competitive environment and, with our competition, and just making sure we stood out. And really, really working together. So bringing the creative and the media and the PR side together, getting them to work as one, so that, execution was flawless.